What a year this was. Anime had its foot on 2023's neck. We had Trigun Stampede, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, Demon Slayer Season 3, The Thousand Year Blood War Part 2, the reveal of Gear 5, the ending of Attack on Titan, and the wonderful live-action adaptation of One Piece. With all those juggernauts, one series would not leave the conversation, and that is Jujutsu Kaisen. We gave warnings to the anime-onlys about the events of Hidden Inventory and the Shibuya incident, and looking at the reception...
I hate this show. I hate this show.
Like I'm this close to dropping this show because if this is how we're gonna keep going, I honestly, I don't need that pain. I'm sorry.
Many were not ready. I loved every single episode of this season, and today I'm gonna rank each and every episode of it. If you're new here, my name is Yuno, and now you know. If you enjoyed this video at any point, leaving a like would be appreciated. And if you want to see more, feel free to check out the channel, and if you like what you see, kick back, stay a while, and hit the subscribe button. Now on to the video. Episode 6, It's Like That. After finishing a mission one day, Yuji decides to go to the movies, Nobara decides to go shopping, and Megumi decides to go home. While shopping, Nobara is approached by someone who had a crush on Yuji. This was quite a wholesome episode, something that was needed in between the high intensity of the Hidden Inventory arc and the coming devastation of the Shibuya arc. I like that we got to see our three main characters be teens instead of sorcerers. This was also a great moment for Yuji, and it showed great character. The end of the episode leads into the heavy action that we were going to get for the rest of the arc.
I won't argue with cursed spirits. Fix me, scumbag. Hurry up.
Episode 8, The Shibuya Incident. Satoru Gojo enters Shibuya. The fight between the strongest sorcerer and the most evil curses begin. Meanwhile, Yuji works with Mei Mei and Wee Wee in order to get Yuji to be Gojo's backup as soon as possible. With the tension rising, plans are being made to make sure Shibuya is safe. I like this episode to showcase how much the villains had prepared and planned to make sure they come out on top.
I'm saying I'm actually shocked you would ever have thought you could beat me with this loser shit.
Episode 1, Hidden Inventory. We flash back into the year of 2006 to see the relationship between Gojo and Geto. This was such a great season opening for the show. I love every bit they've added in the beginning of the episode where it felt like a horror mystery. Those are one of the things I haven't seen in JJK in a long while. And I know we were in for a treat when the episode started with Geto's downfall. It started off so masterfully, and I loved every second of it.
Exercise. Absorb. No one else understands what cursed spirits taste like.
Episode 10, Pandemonium. Gojo had officially been sealed. The worst case scenario has happened. One thing the anime portrays better in my opinion is the relationship between Geto and Gojo. The small hint of Geto fighting the body back was done brilliantly. So much intensity. The rest of the episode was done well, but nothing jumped out at me like the moments I mentioned.
There's no time. I'll only say this once. Satoru Gojo has been sealed.
Episode 2, Hidden Inventory Part 2. Geto and Gojo are assigned to escorting the next star plasma vessel. This episode felt more slice of life than anything, which is strange to say for an anime like this, but it was nicely done. My favorite part may be the old man versus Geto. I can't imagine a better way to implement the two double page spreads into a beatdown like this. But Geto wasn't the only one that had a great fight. Gojo's part was so amazing. The cocky style of him was done very well as he explained his curse technique. And then the failure of Red leading into a gag. It was nice to see Gojo wasn't always perfect.
I really thought I was gonna be able to do it that time.
Is this guy for real?
Episode 11, Seance. Gojo was sealed and we need a plan to get into a veil to help. Megumi's and Yuji's teamwork isn't quite the skill of Todo's and Yuji's, but these two work so well together. The fight between them and Awakasa is a beatdown that I could only expect from these two. Ino's fight was fire too. I love his curse technique and how it was adapted into the anime. He is such a skilled fighter. I also love how they showed how much of an impact Gojo had on the world by just being born. What a solid episode.
You're surprisingly adept, you know that?
Really?
Episode 7, Evening Festival. This was one of the coolest fights in the manga to me, strictly for the giant mech. If you told me we were going to get a giant mech in this series, I would have thought you were absolutely insane. This fight went crazy, and if y'all don't know by now, I'm a big Mahito fan. So anytime I get to see him, I get super excited. The Gurren Lagann and the Evangelion references also got me more excited. And it's crazy, if Mechamaru had fully reached his potential, he would have been a powerhouse. But sadly, he became one of the many victims of Mahito in this season. Rest in peace, Mechamaru.
But here's the truth. I want to get closer to you, Mechamaru. So one day, I'll come to see you.
Episode 14, Fluctuations. The beginning of this episode was in the smallpox domain, and it looked like it was animated straight from a movie. Jesus Christ, shout out to the animators of this. Meme versus the smallpox looked insane, and might be one of the best looking moments of this series. We move on to Dagon versus Nabito, Nanami, and Maki. This episode has so much tension, more tension than I remembered reading in the manga. I've also loved how the anime explained Nabito's curse technique. Seeing it in movement really helped with the understanding of it.
Okay, everyone, it's the main event. Will you give your life up just to save mine?
Episode 18, Right and Wrong. I remember reading this part in the manga and it shattered me. I do wish we got a bit more of Yuji's mindset in the manga. The opening of this episode took that and ran with it. Him walking aimlessly, replaying the words said to him throughout his head and feeling guilty. Leading into Nanami's send-off. So beautiful. Him imagining himself on the island and then Mahito right behind him. Instead of Yuji standing behind Mahito and Nanami, I do prefer the angle that they went with in the manga, and I wish they kind of did that. Either way, the scene was equally painful and the voice actors in Japanese dub was spectacular. I thought this episode was going to end with Nanami's death, but Yuji and Mahito got up to round 2 with their fight. What a great action-packed and heartfelt episode.
You take it from here.
Episode 12, Dull Knife. Let me start with the highlight of this episode, the one that everyone went crazy for, Nanami snapping. What an excellent display of strength. He was a straight savage, and the Japanese dub felt so threatening. We also got Nobara action too, which was great to see her before the upcoming tragedy. But my favorite part, my GOAT, the ghost of the Zenin Toshifushi Giro is officially back, uncontrolled and running straight off instinct. The puppet of carnage.
How many are there? Allies and their locations.
Episode 5, Premature Death. So this episode features one of my favorite chapters in the series, Gato getting closer to the edge. One thing I want to talk about with Hidden Inventory being adapted is the colors. Everything is so bright and vibrant. This stood out to me in this episode because the colors popped out with the subject being darker than usual. It was a visual masterpiece. The manga made me feel for Geto, whereas the anime made me feel like I was Geto. I would have done the same thing in his position. I didn't make this connection, but I heard someone say in JJK 0, we got in Gojo's point of view of the breakup, whereas in the anime we got Geto's point of view. Gojo's point of view was dark and clouded for losing something, whereas Geto's was bright for gaining enlightenment. Then it all ended with Gojo taking off the mask where he looks like he's crying. What a beautiful episode.
Do you think you're the strongest because you're Satoru Gojo? Or are you Satoru Gojo because you're the strongest?
Episode 19, Right and Wrong Part 2. The episode that nearly broke the community. I honestly thought the part that everyone was going to break was during Nanami's death. I went to watch an anime-only reactors and they were all broken. I love the start of this episode where Nobara is walking into the curtain and she walks into the aftermath of Sukuna vs. Mahoraga. Once Yuji notices Nobara was helping him, he starts wailing on Mahito. The special left-right bing bong we know him for. Y'all know I love Mahito, but he definitely deserved it. But the way Mahito connected with Nobara was shown was damaging to me. Mostly for the camera work. The flashback was done beautifully, to the point where I would watch a full anime in that setting. Now, in the manga, Nobara head flew back from the explosion. This was very subtle.
for showing me that I'm not alone.
Episode 22, Metamorphosis Part 2. We're going to skip the main scene, but this is probably one of the most important episodes in the arc. There was a lot of information coming out of this episode, and more questions being asked. But the biggest shocker for me was Choso. Someone loves Choso in that studio, and a lot of screen time was given to him. It sucked that Choso didn't get more than one hit on him, but he did more than the poor Kyoto students. They did a great amount of nothing. The ending of Mahito was also in this episode. I remember reading the manga, and I was quite annoyed that this is the way he went out. I wanted him to go, but not like this. I wanted Yuji to defeat him. But if we honestly think about it, Mahito went out just as he killed. Nanami, understanding his true self. Nobara, understanding her true self. Just like Junpei and Mekamaru, all of them were killed right before their full potential was reached. Right when Mahito was able to hit his Black Flash, right when he understood the true essence of his soul, he was stolen of the chance to reach his full potential, just like he stole from others. And honestly, that is way more rewarding.
知ってたさ。だって俺はお前らから生まれたんだから。
Episode 23, Shibuya Incident, Gate Close. What a great finale episode. What I love about this arc is that even if one thing was slightly out of place, the rest of the series would not work. Mahito being defeated but not exorcised, Gojo being sealed, Sukuna defeating Maharaga and indirectly cutting Inumaki's arm. If any of this was altered, events would be dramatically different. All of those things played into Noritoshi Kamo's plan. Also, I love how this episode showed the world after the incident. This is great world building for the story. Also showing cursed spirits attacking normal people. And of course, everyone's favorite main character shows up. Us manga readers all wanted season 2 to end with Yuta declaring he's gonna kill Yuji, and you're damn right we got that scene. This was a banger episode.
虎杖裕二は僕が殺します。
Episode 3, Hidden Inventory Part 3. The famous anime beach episode finally arrives. Gojo and Geto works to protect Riko as she had a bounty over her head. But things were gonna get insane real quick. Gojo pierced by my goat Toji. The fight between Gojo and Toji was incredible and absolutely brutal. Gege has admitted that he doesn't like Gojo, and looking at this scene, I feel like the animators knew that and took it and ran with it. And then the ending. Riko getting shot. Whoever directed this, thank you so much. I love that part. What a cross up.
We're the strongest students at Jujutsu High School. So no matter what decision you make, Satoru and I will guarantee your future.
Episode 4, Hidden Inventory Part 4. Animators, directors, whoever worked on this episode deserves all the awards. The addition added to Geto vs. Toji was incredible. I didn't expect this fight to be better than Gojo vs. Toji. While in the fight, Toji goes more in depth about himself. And then the most insane sorcerer comes back, mastering reverse curse technique and taking Toji out with the hollow purple. What an amazing showcase.
Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one.
Episode 15, Fluctuations Part 2. This made the Toji fanboy in me cheer. My lord, Toji straight up cleaned house. Dagon is by no means weak, but Jesus Christ, Toji just played with him. A true puppet of carnage. Heavily restriction is such an OP trait, and it was perfectly demonstrated of how powerful someone can be without power. Just as Toji bare his fangs at the strongest in the room, he takes Megami out with him. Then Jogo appears and cooks not one, not two, but 3 of our heroes without breaking the sweat. Just when things couldn't get any worse, he feels the presence of Sukuna and feeds him 10 fingers. Once Sukuna wakes up, calamity shortly follows.
I'll give you 1 second. Move.
Episode 20, Right and Wrongs Part 3. What an episode this was. We get into a flashback of our trio, happy, laughing, carefree, just to get smacked right into Nobara's death. Whoever decided to have that one shot coming out of the hole in her face, madness. I said this before, but the anime handles the emotional and the mental distress that Yuji felt so well. Within 15 minutes, he's blaming himself for Sukuna murders, witnessing Nanami's and Nobara's death. And then Mahito, the evil little shit, comes in with a black flash. As Mahito beats down on him, when all hope seemed lost, Todo, a big brother, besto friendo, arrives and all hope is gained. But another highlight of this episode was the closure between Mechamaru and Miwa. My god, that scene was done with the finest of executions.
There's no need to find your answer to that now. However, until you're able to find it, you cannot stop moving forward.
Episode 13, Red Scales. Choso vs. Yuji, one of the greatest fights in the series, finally gets animated. Choso has defined the term on sight. Yuji didn't even hit the ground yet, and the piercing blood is already being shot at him. I'm a big fan of hand-to-hand combat, and it was done so well. This exceeded all levels of expectations I had. The bathroom fight was nicely done. The music hit, the action hit, the animation hit. It was so majestic. And the ending with Choso losing his mind was done in a genius way, looking like a VCR with the flashbacks. It was a nice touch.
So this attack using my right fist as a distraction will land!
Episode 9, the Shibuya Incident, Gate Open. The strongest sorcerer in the modern age, Satoru Gojo, shows us why he's the top dog in all of this. This plan was nearly unstoppable, however, Gojo is built different. It's something about him letting loose in pure insanity that I love. It makes me curious of how Gojo would have been if he was a villain. Putting Gojo in a situation where he either uses his power to kill every civilians or let them die push him to new bounds, pulling off a gamble of a 0.2 second domain expansion and taking out all the transfigured humans. The most heart-wrenching part was when Fate Gato appears, tricking Gojo into thinking Gato is still alive. He gives a small smirk in seeing his best friend still alive. That just hit more, especially after watching Zero and Hidden Inventory. The voice acting with Gojo yelling, "Who are you?" was excellent. Being the most powerful being and not able to save your friend was just terrible.
He's a teacher. And since without him, I probably would have been executed by now. He's the strongest.
Episode 16, Thunderclap. This episode felt like 2 episodes in one. So much happened. The first half we had the fight between Toji and Megumi. In the manga, this fight was pretty short. Megumi wasn't getting insanely worked at all. He held up his own. In this episode, however, the GOAT, the Gosa de Zenin, the Sorcerer Killer, completely snaps. And shout out to the rabbits for holding their own as well. A lot of things that were added in this episode level up the stakes. The realization of Toji seeing his son was done better in here than it was in the manga. Just when I thought this episode was over, we get the second half. Sukuna versus Jogo. These 2 fights in this episode can rival the best fights in other anime. Sukuna was just toying with Jogo like it was nothing, with a smile on his face the whole time. And the crazy thing is, Jogo is extremely strong. When I was reading the manga, I said Jogo was top 3. The only problem is, he fought 1 and 2. One nice detail in the story that I liked is that each disaster curse died from the strongest. Daigon was killed by the strongest user without curse energy, Hanami was killed by the strongest sorcerer, and Jogo was killed by the strongest curse. This was an incredible episode.
Panda! Hurry up and run! No, you won't.
Episode 17, Thunderclap Part 2. This episode was movie level. I'm not sure how true this is, but I heard that the episode was only 30% done, which is absolutely insane. One of the best episodes I ever seen in anime, and it wasn't of the fullest qualities of animators, says a lot. Thank you so much to the animators that have worked on this, because my lord, you guys done fantastic. You deserve more credit than anything. The Jogo fight showed a fraction of Sukuna's power, but this episode showed the strongest sorcerer in history. Ryoma Sukuna devastates Shibuya. What I loved about this fight in the anime is that they really showed that the innocent people in Shibuya were being killed during this fight. The scale surpassed any other fight that we had so far. The fun that Sukuna was having in this episode was great. It was truly a masterpiece.
You can see it, Maharaga! You can see my curse technique!
Episode 21, Transformation. I was stuck between this episode and Thunderclap Part 2 for number 1, but it came down to this episode strictly because this was the most satisfying. We continue the fight between Mahito and the Besto Friendos. The coordination between Yuji and Todo are unmatched. The directing of certain shots were so cinematic. Genius. And speaking of genius, Mahito pulling off a 0.2 second domain that he saw from Gojo just to take Todo out was an insane play. Into another Black Flash. My God, Mahito, I love you so much. Now, I saw a TikTok about someone talking about the moment with Todo, and I know it said Todo's imagination, but someone said, what if this was Todo's soul fighting against the idol transfiguration, refusing to transform when he had high-fived Mahito? In all honesty, that's going to be my headcanon. But to the final fight of Yuji and Mahito. Mahito in his true form. This was done so well, with the narrator saying not one could do Black Flash at will, but the screen breaking and showing Yuji, oh my God, that was incredible. But then Yuji becoming the hunter. This scene was translated perfectly. It was so satisfying seeing Mahito crying. And what makes it worse is that it feels like Mahito won in the end of the day. He took away Yuji's sensei, his classmate, immobilized the perfect tag team partner, and made Yuji admit the very thing he's been denouncing. They are the same. This episode was so good.
認めるよ、真人。俺はお前だ。俺はお前を否定したかった。
And those are my ranking of Jujutsu Kaisen episodes for season 2. What an amazing season. Special thank you to the animators that worked on this. You guys have done a fantastic job. Let me know what were your favorite episodes down below and how excited are you for seeing season 3. We do have more videos coming up, and until next time, you know where to find you now.